Hey folks, welcome to Shooting Up North. I'm your host, Lewis Carlin. We're heard right here on the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we know, there were a lot of rumors at Bound for Glory that some big names were going to show up, such as Braun Strowman, Bray Wyatt, possibly. Buddy Matthews is going to show up, but nobody did. Nobody did. They weren't able to they weren't able to work out any deals with any of those big names. And I kind of think that might have been a blessing in disguise because a few days later, we found out that Ring of Honor, unfortunately, going through some issues, they're going to be releasing everybody from their contract. Any contract that ends at the end of this year, everybody will be released from their contract. And if anything goes beyond the end of the year, they will get paid until March of 2022, and then they'll be released from the contract. But then if anybody wants to get out of their contract, Ring of Honor will work with them. So that might have been a blessing. That actually was a blessing in disguise for Impact Wrestling. Again, I'm not celebrating Ring of Honor having to release all the wrestlers and reimagine the company. They're going to essentially become an independent promotion. I'm not celebrating that anybody lost their jobs or anything like that. But I'm saying this is a good opportunity for Impact Wrestling. There's a lot of really, really good talent that I think will be terrific fits for Impact Wrestling. Lots of great Ring of Honor talent that will be great fit for Impact Wrestling. And I have a few names here, and I'm gonna run down these names, and just making sure I'm recording. I just want to point out, yesterday I recorded a podcast and I forgot to hit record. It was a really good one. I had to redo the whole thing, but I'm just making sure it's actually recording now. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But there are a lot of talented wrestlers that Ring of Honor has that are becoming available. Again, their contracts are not, at the end of the year, they're going to be released from the contracts. But I think if some talent wants to leave early, I think Ring of Honor said that they will work with them. I know they have Final Battle coming up, which it basically is the final battle until they come back as in early 2022, as they're going to be running again, like I said, as an independent promotion. So no one's going to be in a contract with Ring of Honor. Lots of really good talent out there. So the first name I want to bring up, that I think Impact Wrestling should really, really consider signing, and I mean like they should be thinking about it right now, and that's Shane Taylor. Shane Taylor is a tremendous talent. I've been a Shane Taylor fan for quite some time. A tremendous talent. He's just an awesome big man. He moves so well in the ring, and he's just tremendous all around. Cuts a great promo. He's got Shane Taylor Promotions right now in Ring of Honor, so he's the leader of that faction, and just a tremendous. He's a main event level talent, in my opinion. And I think if Impact Wrestling brought him on, and as I said, main event level, he would come in and he would be a main event level talent for Impact Wrestling. You can insert him into Impact Wrestling, and he can immediately be a top challenger for the Impact Wrestling World Championship, which is currently held by Moose. Now, as I mentioned, there is Shane Taylor Promotions, and Shane Taylor did say that he actually has been contacted by a number of promotions. He did an interview, it was released today, and he did say, though, if he is going to go to another promotion, he wants to bring Shane Taylor Promotions with him. Shane Taylor Promotions are Khan, Moses, Ron Hunt, and O'Shea Edwards. So basically, if you want Shane Taylor, you're going to have to most likely take Shane Taylor Promotions along with him, and that's a good thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong bringing in a new, fresh faction in Impact Wrestling. I don't want like Impact Wrestling to say, well, we want Shane Taylor, but we don't want the rest of Shane Taylor Promotions. And then MLW comes in and says, you know what, we'll take all of Shane Taylor Promotions. So if Shane Taylor wants Shane Taylor Promotions to remain intact, then Impact Wrestling should be very, very smart and say, okay, that's fine. Because Khan, Moses, Ron Hunt, and O'Shea Edwards also, those are four very, very talented wrestlers as well. And again, bringing in another fresh faction into Impact Wrestling would be very beneficial, very, very beneficial to Impact Wrestling. And I'm thinking like they could just come in and they could go after Ace Austin and they go after Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. They could go after Eddie Edwards. They could go right after Moose and the Impact Wrestling World Title. Lots of possibilities there. So I think Shane Taylor would be a great fit. Shane Taylor and Shane Taylor Promotions would be a tremendous fit for Impact Wrestling. And it's something, like I said, Shane Taylor said that a number of promotions have already contacted him, and I really hope Impact Wrestling is one of them. And I really hope that Impact Wrestling can work something out with Shane Taylor and Shane Taylor Promotions. I think it'll be a terrific, terrific fit. And some more names that I think would be great fits. It's a few names here: Bandito, Flamita, and Ray Horace. I think would be fantastic in Impact Wrestling. They would be fantastic in Impact Wrestling. Bandito is currently the Ring of Honor World Champion. Um, I think Bandito, Flamita, and Ray Horace would bring a level of excitement to Impact Wrestling that we haven't seen since Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix have left. And gone to, of course, AEW. I know right now there's a Laredo Kid, and I was reading on Wikipedia. I don't know if it's true. It says that Impact Wrestling has signed Laredo Kid. I thought he was just on loan for like AAA, but I'll have to look into that more. I'm not sure if that's. Can't really believe what Wikipedia is saying. I think anybody could just type that in. But back to Bandito, Flamina, and Ray Horace. Like I said, those are three guys that will bring a level of excitement that Impact Wrestling hasn't seen in a while. Bandito is just a fantastic, fantastic in-ring performer. Again, thinking Bandito against Ace Austin, Bandito against Laredo Kid would be fantastic. Bandito against TJP, or if they came in, Flamita and Ray Horace had some terrific matches against each other. Either any three of those guys would be tremendous X Division champions, and it would really add some more depth to the X Division. And I think those three guys, I know they're. No, Bandito had mentioned that he's interested in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but with the partnership, it could very well be worked out. Impact Wrestling signs Bandito, and Bandito could work for New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. But those definitely are three guys that Impact Wrestling should definitely consider. I would love all three of them in Impact Wrestling. So again, Impact Wrestling, three guys that they could really bring in, and again, would bring such excitement, such depth to the roster for Impact Wrestling. Jonathan Gresham. Jonathan Gresham is such a tremendous mat technician. He could have a great match with anybody, despite what he could have a terrific match with W. Morrissey. Jonathan Gresham could have a terrific match with a damn broomstick. You know, he's so talented, and of course, we know his wife, Jordan Grace, is on the Impact Wrestling roster, so maybe she could convince him to come on over to Impact Wrestling. I think he would be a great fit. And again, maybe he could come in with Jay Lethal. Maybe they come as a tag team. I know they were Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions at one point. Maybe they could come in as a tag team and challenge the Good Brothers for the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team title. Get some fresh tag teams in there. I think that would be great. And even if like Jay Lethal would be a great fit as well. If Gresham and Lethal did come in, say as a tag team, and challenge the Good Brothers for the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team titles. That'd be great. I would love to see them as champions. And Gresham and Lethal could also, break apart and be terrific singles wrestlers. And Gresham could be a definite challenger for the X Division title and the world title, as well as Jay Lethal would be as well. So Gresham, Lethal would be terrific dish. I know Lethal. It would be a return to Impact Wrestling for Jay Lethal. He was he did the Randy Savage impersonation, which was really, really good. And he had a little thing with Ric Flair back back a few years ago, which was terrific as well in TNA. But I would love to see Gresham and Jay Lethal in Impact Wrestling, both so talented, and both would just be world class additions to Impact Wrestling. Roxy, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, 19 years old. There's so much upside. She's so talented at 19 years old, and she's a Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and she will be a terrific addition to the Impact Wrestling Knockouts roster. I know they just brought in Masha Slamovich. Mercedes Martinez hasn't officially signed, but I have a feeling that she's eventually going to sign with them. But Roxy would be a terrific addition. You could insert her right into the Impact Wrestling Knockouts title situation, and maybe even the digital media champion. Well, no, I don't think she. I think she could just insert her into the Impact Wrestling Knockouts title picture right off the bat. She's very talented, and I think she would be a great addition as well to Impact Wrestling. And EC3, come home, EC3. Yeah, I know you found a home with Ring of Honor, but unfortunately, things aren't working out for Ring of Honor. And but come home, Scott D'Amore, bring EC3 back. I mean, the new EC3 is so tremendous. He would be a great EC3. Would put him in, have him go right after Moose in the Impact Wrestling World Title. Now, I think Moose should hold the belt for quite some time, but he could come in. EC3 against Jake something would be fantastic. EC3 feuding with Eddie Edwards would be great. There's a lot of possibilities for EC3 and Impact Wrestling. Even like you bring in Shane Taylor Promotions and have EC3 come in and feud with Shane Taylor Promotions, which would be terrific as well. So EC3, come home to Impact Wrestling. Dalton Castle's another. I know Dalton Castle has been he's been injured. I don't want to say quite a bit, but he has been suffering some injuries. And I know some people have said that I think he had injured his back, and I know that a lot of people are saying that he hasn't been the same since the injury. But I think Dalton Castle would be a decent addition to Impact Wrestling. He's the very talented wrestler, a very flamboyant wrestler, and I think he would be a decent. I think he was in Impact Wrestling for a cup of coffee, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he would be a decent addition as well. And you have Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee is. I should have grouped him in there with Bandito, Flamita, and Ray Horace. Dragon Lee is just mega talented, but he is under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which might create a little difficulties in case Impact Wrestling is interested in signing Dragon Lee, because now we got New Japan Pro Wrestling strong, lots of shows in the States. Dragon Lee might just return to New Japan Pro Wrestling strong and work for them. But again, I got to mention the partnership between Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So you never know. I mean, if you're working for Ring of Honor, unfortunately, he wasn't able to travel over to Japan during the COVID situation, but that's coming to an end. And he had some terrific matches with Hiromu Takahashi over the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I could see him going back to New Japan Pro Wrestling and working there. But he would be a great addition as well. To Impact Wrestling. Excuse me for a second. And I got all the names here. A lot of people were saying possibly Danhausen in Impact Wrestling. I'm going to be honest, and I apologize if people disagree with me. I'm not the biggest Danhausen fan. I know he's Overhausen. He's got a unique persona, but I just not a Danhausen fan. And I think AEW was expressing interest in Danhausen, or fans were indicating that Danhausen should go to AEW, and they're pushing for him, but not a big Danhausen. Brody King would be another good big man for Impact Wrestling. I could see Brody King coming in and him teaming with Madman Fulton. Like I could see Madman Fulton breaking from Ace Austin, and Madman Fulton and Brody King become a monster tag team, which would be another fresh team to challenge for the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team titles. I think that would be a interesting situation. Brody King teaming with Madman Fulton. Or maybe they could feud with each other, but I think it will be a great monster tag team. Or don't even break with Ace Austin. He just joins the faction. Just add some more depth to the faction. I think that would be terrific as well. So there's a lot of talent out there. A lot of talent that Impact Wrestling should be looking at. There's also Mike Bennett, Maria Kanellis, formerly of Impact Wrestling. Possibly they come back. I'm not sure if there's any interest for them to go back. I'm not sure, but if there was, they would be decent additions as well. So there you have it. There you have it. There are other I want to talk about MLW as well. But I was thinking about maybe saving it for a separate podcast. No, I'm just going to read the names off. I don't need to do a separate podcast for MLW. So for MLW, I'm thinking because MLW, they tend to go for the lesser names that have great talent. They go for the undiscovered talent most of the time. So I'm thinking guys that I think that MLW would be interested in, that would be really good fits for MLW. I'm not going to go into much detail. I'm just going to read the names off. I think LSG, Josh Woods, Eli Esom, Dak Draper, Brian Johnson, I think would be good fits for MLW. I think Court Bauer will be interested in bringing them in. He could bring them in, and Court Bauer could turn them into MLW stars. And I know they're trying to build their women's division as well. So maybe possibly they want to go after like an Amy Rose or a Mandy Leon or a Miranda Elise or a Trisha Dora. They might want to bring them, or even Roxy if you can work something out with Impact Wrestling. Roxy would be a good fit for MLW as well. I know that, like I said, they have the women's division that they were trying to build that up. So there's a lot of got Angelina Love as well. In Ring of Honor. Lots of names out there that Court Bauer could be looking at. And New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. A few names here as well. Might as well just leave everything on one podcast. So New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, I really think Dragon Lee would head on over to New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, but I wouldn't rule out possibly over to Impact Wrestling. I think Flip Gordon as well. I know Flip Gordon, he competed in a few Super Junior tournaments for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think he'd be interested in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. Possibly AEW, but maybe a year or two ago, AEW was rumored he was going to AEW to join the Young Bucks. They had a little thing going in Ring of Honor, but I think we're way past that now. So I can see him going to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Flip Gordon would also be a good fit for Impact Wrestling as well. Very, very, very talented. Forgot to add him in there for Impact Wrestling. So either Impact Wrestling or New Japan Pro Wrestling for Flip Gordon. I can see Josh Woods. Josh Woods, I think, as I mentioned him for possibly MLW, I think he has a great style that fits the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong style. So I think Josh Woods would be a good fit for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. And Bateman also Bateman has been wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, so I can see him going there. Brody King is also wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong as well. And while I would love to see him come into Impact Wrestling and possibly form that team, of course, it's just a fantasy team in my head with Madman Fulton. I think he'll probably wind up staying with New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. But again, Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling, they have the work agreement, so you could see a lot of talent exchanges between both Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. And two names that I haven't mentioned, two top names. I haven't mentioned Roosh, and I haven't mentioned the Briscoes, Mark and Jay Briscoe. While I would love to see the Briscoes in Impact Wrestling, I really think that the Briscoes and Roosh are going to end up. Those are the three names that are going to end up in AEW. I think Roosh is going to rejoin Andrade. I know they had they work together. They were in a faction years ago, so they have a lot of history together. So I think Roosh is going to end up in AEW. And I think the Briscoes, while we'd love to see the Briscoes come to Impact Wrestling and challenge for the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team titles, and that's always a possibility. But I think AEW would offer them a contract. I think the Briscoes against the Young Bucks would be a match that the fans would love to see as well. So I think those three names would end up in AEW. I know there was a report out that AEW signed like a whole group of Ring of Honor wrestlers, which turned out to be false. But people don't care anyway. They're just they put it up on their Facebook page or Twitter page, and like, oh wow, AEW signs all these Ring of Honor stars, and it happened to be totally false. So that's why people should do their research. Actually, somebody put it up on the Facebook page, and I was like, you should do your research first before you post anything like that. They were like, well, I post something up, I see it. If you want to do research, you could do the research. And the guy got a little snippy with me, but you should do your research before you post up news. So make sure it's accurate, make sure it's real before you post anything. But AEW hadn't signed a whole group of Ring of Honor wrestlers. But I think if they do sign, it's just going to be Roosh, and the Briscoes would head on over to and if it's not the Briscoes, I think definitely Roosh will be heading on over to AEW to join Andrade to reform Los Ingobernables. I was gonna say I almost said Los Ingobernables de Japan, but they then reformed their faction, and that's it. And that's it. I said I was going to do this podcast, and I just did it. So and again, I appreciate everybody that's been subscribing, that's been watching, the podcasts and subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. And we're at 623 subscribers. Man, I'd love to hit 700 by mid-November. And the goal is 1,000. And I'm getting there. I'm close. And again, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. So anything else breaks, of course, I'll be back with some news a little later today. And until then, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. And stay safe, everyone. So long. Bye-bye.